So now together we are going to set up our current Exchange directory where we were working inside the contracts and the tests to now support our Webpack. And I've opened in the background the right directory with the lesson 1 init files folder, and I just copy and paste the files into my directory. So now I have a new folder called app where my index HTML, managed token HTML, trading HTML file is. I have a subfolder for my app.js JavaScript file and a style sheets folder. Those are all empty, and we are going to fill them up in the next few lectures. And I also have the bubble and the linter files, which I'm not talking about because they are really not important. I have an updated package.json file with the newest versions of all the packages that we need in order to run our front end. I still have my truffle.js file, which hasn't changed, it's exactly the same. And I have a webpack config.js file, which this is the entry point for Webpack, and it will, I will just quickly touch on that. It will copy our index HTML from the app folder, trading HTML from the app folder, manage HTML from the app folder to an index trading and manage token HTML files, and it will do all of this in a build folder. And it will take our entry JavaScript file, and this is the most important part. It will package everything that's in this file and required into a new file called app.js. So even though our JavaScript file here is very, very small, it's right now it just has like 122 lines, but because we are importing jQuery here, we are importing the Bootstrap loader here, we're importing the app CSS here, we're importing Web3, we're importing Truffle contract, we're importing our artifacts. It will take those and it will directly create one single JavaScript file out of those. So that is very important to understand. Even though we are working in this app.js file, it will build out a new JavaScript file that contains all of those libraries directly in one file. So it's very convenient and very good. Basically, you don't have to change anything here. If you are interested in Webpack and how the things are working, I can recommend you the Webpack homepage, and there is a ton of tutorials out there for Webpack, and it's out of the scope of this tutorial obviously, but it's definitely worth it to have a look. Other task runners would be Grunt or Gulp. You can also have a look at them, and if you just need a packager that packages these dependencies into one file, then I can recommend you Browserify. Then we have one file called webpack bootstrap.config.js. So that's the very, very standard Webpack Bootstrap config file for the Bootstrap loader, and it's taken directly from the Bootstrap loader repository. I haven't changed anything in there. And then we have a post.css config file, which doesn't do anything. Now, in order to install our dependencies, we have to head over to a console, and I usually use the PowerShell here on Windows for that, but you can use any shell you like on Mac or on Linux. It should just work. If you have npm installed, then you just type npm, not inside the init folder. You have to go to our folder where we are working off. So I've changed to the right folder, to this folder. I'm in the root directory of this folder now, and I just type npm install, and what will happen is npm will go into the package.json and will read all the dependencies, dev dependencies and normal dependencies, and it will just try to download them and install them, and once it's finished, we can start using those. So if you are running into any problems like I did here, for example, the EPERM operation not permitted problem, then I can suggest you to run npm cache clean. And the npm install will really take a while. It will try to download everything and it will install it. And for me, it probably takes around 10 minutes to install everything. So of course, depending on your bandwidth and your machine where you're working on, it might take longer or shorter. And then I just try to install it again. And now let's see if this will run through. So now it went through, and it might give you some more warnings, but if there is no error popping up like this one here, then everything should be fine. And if you want to start the actual development server now, then you can just type npm run dev, and I can also show you how the script looks like. So it will run the script called dev here in the package.json. So when you open up the package.json, you see the scripts, and inside the scripts you see a few scripts that you can run. And if you run dev, then it will start the Webpack dev server, and the Webpack dev server will open up a new process in the background and will open a server on localhost 8080, a web server. Let's have a look if this is working. And especially on Windows, I'm not sure if it's on Linux the same, but on Windows you have to kill the node process. Even if you just press Ctrl+C here and you stop this running process, the web server will still run in the background. So you have to go to the task manager and kill it. I will show this to you in a second. Now you can hear that it takes quite a lot of processing power to package all of these dependencies together. You maybe can hear my fan working in the background. And once this is done, it will say Webpack compiled successfully. And it will also say that it opened a dev server. Your project is running at localhost 8080. So you can go to a browser now and open localhost 8080. So I went to a browser now, I opened my Chrome and I pointed it to localhost /8080, so localhost port 8080. And by default, it will load the index page. And then we also have a manage token page, which is all empty right now. Let's have a look, manage token page. And we also have a trading page, which is also empty and which we are populating with the right content in the next lectures. Now, the last thing that I show you is the actual stopping of the batch process, of the node process. Now I say that the process is terminated, and I haven't used the... Okay, on the PowerShell, the process is really terminating. So you might be lucky here. If you're opening it in the Git bash, then the process will be running in the background, even though you press Ctrl+C. So then you have to go to the task manager and you have to look for the node process here, which is under N somewhere, and you right click and stop the process. I will show this to you in a second. So I'm here now in a Git bash and I type npm run dev, and it will start also the normal server from Webpack, the Webpack dev server. And I show you this specifically because it took me a whole afternoon to figure out what's going wrong. And it's a very, very common mistake that you think you ended the web server, but it's still running. Let's have a look. So this is running again. Now I Ctrl+C, and the problem is this is still running. So what I have to do is I open a task manager. I scroll down until I see the node process here and I end it. And now the web server is actually stopped. Now, if you're using the PowerShell, this doesn't concern you, but if you're using the Git bash, then you have to stop the web server manually. In the next lessons, we are going to populate our manage token side and add the first JavaScript part here.